Yeah, let's have the pledge, please, to the U.S. and Texas flags, if you will. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you all very much. Okay, this morning we are meeting in the Nueces County courtroom in the Nueces County Courthouse. This is a second in the series of budget workshops for the budget to be effective October 1st, 2013. This morning we have the honor and privilege of hearing from the county attorney, then the county clerk, and then the medical examiner. I'd like to certify that all members of the court are present and that we have a quorum. Good morning.
Good morning.
Laura,
Good morning.
how are you? Thank you for being here.
I was thinking about bringing cookies, but I see you have a stack back there, so I was trying to be healthy with you guys.
Well,
not bringing you
Mr.
sugar.
Gonzalez is very concerned about our health.
I'm going to start before I go into my request on budget and what areas I was asking for increase. I wanted to give you a report, as I always do every year, to let you know what's happening in our office in terms of litigation. And I'll start with the lawsuits. We're talking about, as of date, 5/13/2013, we have 22 pending lawsuits that are filed against the county or against county officials or employees. And 19 of those are in which the county or an official and employee is obviously the defendant. 2 of those 22 pending cases, we have been the plaintiff. We have the MERS lawsuit and the Coastal Bend baseball. Those 2, we brought a lawsuit. And 1 out of those 21 is a federal writ that has been filed that we're handling in-house. 15 out of those 22 we do in-house. Is very limited what is basically handled by outside counsel. And really the reasons for outside counsel to be involved is that there are conflicts. And, we can't represent everybody because their defenses conflict, or I have a conflict because perhaps maybe I have knowledge of that particular lawsuit and I may be a witness. Some of those reasons are the reasons why we ask that we have outside counsel. Now, 2 of those 22 as well are motor vehicle cases which are handled by TAC, Texas Association of County. We have an insurance with them, and one of the requirements is that they handle the motor vehicle lawsuits, so they handle those. And right now, we only have 5 cases out of the 22 that are handled by outside counsel. In 2 cases, the county is represented in-house, and outside counsel represents 1 individual. In that particular case, there was a conflict, so I had to hire somebody else. We have 3 of those 22 are on appeal, and another 3 out of those 22 are subject to another further appeal or reconsideration, which are really the same ones, the same 3. The baseball county, of course, we won, and we got it out of bankruptcy court, and obviously we had a judgment on that one, and we're pursuing collection right now. In 2 out of the 22 outside counsel, which are not from TAC, they were hired in previous years. That's in the Forge case and the San Patricio case, which we have the same counsel. 6 out of those 22 are employment cases, 4 from the sheriffs, 1 from the tax office, and 1 from the juvenile board. And that's in a very old case. That's the Shireen case. 10 out of those 20 are out of the sheriff's office, which 4 are from our employment. 1 is alleged civil rights violation, and 5 involve jail, which is also civil rights violations or alleged civil rights violations. But that's what we have right now as far as pending lawsuits.
Is that Sherwin case still going? I thought that
We're out of it, but they filed some new pleadings, which we believe that they're untimely, so we're going to have to file our own pleadings as well. But we were already out. The case had been severed, and he was just dealing with the other defendant. But unfortunately, plaintiff's lawyer filed some new pleadings trying to get us back into the lawsuit, and of course it's not timely. So we're going to have to address that. We in our office, we handle different kinds of cases. It's a high-volume office. We do CPS, Child Protective Services. We handle protective orders. We handle mental commitments. We do some EEOC cases as well. We do a lot of advisories, as you well know, and we handle a lot of, we prepare contracts or we handle contracts. We do preparation for Commissioner's Court. We also handle the collective bargaining now. What else? Of course, the lawsuits. And we provide a lot of advisories, not only to Commissioner's Court or members of Commissioner's Court, but to all our other department heads and elected officials, which are 60 plus. So we do handle a lot, and I did say CPS, which is a big bulk of it. I'm going to give you some numbers, some statistical information of the number of cases that we handled on and bail bonds, and on each category. On the protective orders, we do have an agreement with legal services where we combine our resources to handle these cases. They handle cases on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, and we handle cases on Thursdays and Fridays. But I'm just talking about actual court time. We do provide the paralegal, which does all the preparation in terms of the pleadings, the interviews for us and for legal services. And their lawyer is really the only one that, on those days, that handles the actual hearings, and we handle our hearings. If there's a conflict with them, because they can only represent people that are indigent and they don't qualify, then it kicks it back to us, and we handle those cases as well. So the only reason why we wouldn't handle those type of cases is if there's a conflict. If, in fact, like, for example, the protective order arose, or the applicant wants a protective order and it arose out of one of our cases, then obviously we cannot represent two clients. That may be adverse. So those are really the only times that we are not able to handle those cases. We've had, for the year 2012, we had 724 appointments. We had 26 referrals. In terms of applicants, we have 359. Legal aid had 80. In terms of protective orders being granted, 93 were granted. Out of all of those, 77 were non-suited. What happens is sometimes they don't want to go forward, and we've done all the work, we've filed the pleadings and everything, and for their own reasons, they don't want to pursue it. And 23 had been dismissed. In addition to that, in some circumstances, when we're not able to actually pursue the protective order, we do some limited service, which is we do send warning letters to the respondent. So we had 24 warning letters. And out of the protective orders that were actually filed, 41 had been denied by court. So those are the stats on that. On bail bonds for the year 2012, we've collected, both for state, for the district courts and county courts, $100,906.90. We filed 265 cases, and we had some spillovers from the following year, from the previous year. And so we, in terms of taking it to court, we had 318 cases. So we were very, the year before, 2011, we had collected 112,000 plus, and this time it was 100,000. So it depends on the number of cases that come through our door, but that's a pretty good number, to bring back to the coffers of Nueces County. On Child Protective Services, right now in 2020, we opened 94 cases. In other words, 94 cases were filed in that, new cases were filed in that case, in that year. Cases that were closed, which include new and old, is 192. So right now, as far as active, we have 131. which is very, very good in comparison to previous years that were over 300 cases. So I think they've whittled down, but the work still continues. It's very voluminous, but there's a lot less.
The bail bond money, where does that money go back to?
General fund.
It goes in as a fine or fee?
I'm not sure if it's categorized. I don't know if Dale can answer that. I don't know how it's
I'll
categorized,
follow up with you. Okay.
but it does go to the general fund
Okay.
every year. Every year it goes to the general fund. $100,906.90, and those are from district court and county courts. And actually, the numbers used to be super high back in the day until the legislature changed it. The whole intent of the statute is to make them come to court or appear in court. I mean, and before we were able to get a lot more for judgments. And this time, they have certain time periods that if they bring the individuals back into court, then all they have to pay is court costs. So all of this is basically court costs, because they are bringing their clients in early or within the statutory time period. If you have any questions on I didn't bring any numbers on the mental commitments, but in addition to all the different kinds of cases, we do have offsets in our department. Obviously, this is one of them, bail bonds. We also we do get some money from CPS. It's 100% at their formula, but it's not really 100% actual monies. But it is something that comes back to our department for offsetting my budget. In addition, we also get monies from the health district for one attorney, which is the attorney 3, and that also offsets. We seek attorney's fees and protective orders. Unfortunately, those monies are not coming in as we would love to, but we try our best to try to get those monies in as well.
When you get those, you say you got
The protective order fees, attorney's fees. When they lose the case, we ask that the respondent pay for attorney's fees, our attorney's fees. But we're not very successful in bringing in those monies.
the revenues from CPS and health district, that goes also to the general fund?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
And but that's to pay in their salary over there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But not the bail bond.
The bail bond goes to the general fund.
It goes in as and I did follow up, it goes into the district clerk it goes in as a fine and fee type situation as bail bond forfeitures, but it's part of the general revenue we get for fines, fees, forfeitures, and those kind of things.
Yes. In addition, the state provides a supplement to all prosecutors, including county attorneys and district attorneys. And this last legislation, it went up from $62,500 to $70,000. And half of that amount you can use for salaries, and the other half can be used for equipment or office supplies within the department. But that money is all under the control of the prosecuting attorney, which is the county attorney or district attorney. Out of that, I do give supplements to my staff. It's not a lot because you can't stretch it very, very far, but I do give some to my staff. And then the other part, I do have it, and I have used it. We bought a shredder. I think at one time we bought a scanner. There's those monies we try to use. We bought some filing cabinets, so we try to offset again to help the county or help the commissioner's court in your budget process. So we do our best in every which way we can to offset my budget. You had a question, Commissioner?
Where do your mental commitments,
Go ahead and turn your mic on, Commissioner.
where do they originate from? What is the process for that?
They,
A particular court that handles those?
yeah, the county court of laws handle all mental commitments, and they have a rotation. They have 5 county courts of law judges, and they all handle, each month they handle, one of them handles it, and it goes on a rotation. And it basically starts, the citizen starts as an applicant, they start with MHMR, and they have a screening for us, and that's where it all begins, and then they come to us, and then we proceed.
And is that well, that's a statutory?
Yes,
but
I have an obligation to do that.
So is MHMR, and so is our contract with Spahn Hospital District.
Yes.
Any chance of getting any reimbursement from those places for you to be the conduit for that process to be executed?
No, we don't get any fees. We don't get any fees or any money to offset our department for the prosecution of those cases. No.
And do you get a lot of those cases?
We do. Cumulative, obviously, you're not going to put a lot of people in the hospital, but yes, we have 2 hearings a week, and we have the probable cause hearing, and then we have the final hearing, which the judges from the county courts handle those cases for us. And of course, it's like a trial, but it's a, you go before the judge instead of a jury trial. And I don't have the numbers. I thought I had a set number, but they add up. They add up.
Are there any attorneys appointed for
Yes.
people that?
Yes, the court has an obligation to appoint a representative for the applicant, an attorney, and on the probable cause hearing, they appoint a master, which has to be a lawyer. So yes, there's fees involved.
We do have set aside a special pot of money for the court-appointed attorneys for mental health. We budgeted $55,000 for that area, and we stay within that budget, but yeah, it's.
Any questions on my report? No? Okay. Well, we'll continue doing our work and the best work that we have, and we will be here for you. Oh, I did want to, I did have another stat that I did want to talk about. It won't take long, Judge. But
You want this?
Steve?
It was the number, yeah, here we go. The PIA request. In 2012, we did 188. We addressed 188 public information requests. The year before, which was in 2011, it was 159. So they've gone up. And it varies. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it comes down. And with regards to advisories to elected officials and department heads, in 2012, we did 146. In the previous year, 2011, we did 184. So we're busy all the time. I just wanted to point those things out. Okay, now I can talk about, if you don't have any questions, I can talk about my budget request.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Steve, as far as, and I don't think I've ever seen this in the budget book, I just wanted to verify, the cases that Laura handles for the other departments here, like the sheriff's department.
Right.
Do we credit those against those departments? We don't. So we
No, we don't allocate any of those things. We don't allocate IT stuff to the various departments. We don't budget in there, and we don't budget. We do for some of the defense stuff, and Laura is in charge of her department, is charged at 1285, which is general administration. Most of our big attorney and consultant fees come out of there rather than directly out of her department budget. But no, we don't allocate them to the sheriff or to juvenile or to any other departments.
I don't know, it just seems to me that the way I've always done accounting is if a department's generating, a liability and you're taking money out of your general fund to cover that liability gets charged.
Now we do, I think Dale.
And it's the cost of doing business for that department is what I'm getting at.
If there's if we end up, of course, it doesn't come out. If there's a settlement, I think ultimately that comes out of self-insured fund, right? In the self-insured fund, we do allocate those, I believe, based on some history of where it's come from. So if somebody has a big liability suit that's in their department, their premium for the next year is going to be more. Is that right, Dale?
That's correct.
So it's the defense, the attorney's costs aren't, but if there's a liability thing, it goes to those departments.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner, of course, we don't have a lot of outside contracts, but with the city does, they allocate everything, every dime out of administration goes to different departments, and so we get into that sometimes when we just in our Metrocom budget that they charge us. They're charging us for stuff that may be doing us good or not.
I mean, can some of these fees, if it contains to an inmate, be done through the drug forfeiture fund? If it relates to an inmate, if you got, doing some kind of legal matters for an inmate, you represent, there's a lawsuit, and can they, the drug forfeiture funds has to do with inmates, so is there something that we can say somebody will go back to replace some of that money?
I'll let Laura, I'll just comment on generally, no, you can't supplant, that's a county responsibility rather than the drug forfeiture funds can't be used for normal day-to-day operations type thing, I believe. Is that correct?
Well, it's not normal day operation.
Yep.
I haven't, originally when we first started doing it, I felt there was a lot of money to be collected back then, so it's not a mandatory duty for me to do the bail bonds, but I felt like it was necessary to bring some money back in.
No, we're talking about drug forfeiture.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, the bond forfeitures. I don't have a...
Drug forfeiture fund.
Oh, I'm sorry, drug,
Forfeiture.
sorry.
Well,
And I'm
really,
sorry, what was the question?
Both. Let's do both, because I've got questions on the bond forfeiture also.
Okay. On the bond forfeitures?
Both, let's do the bond first.
For the bond forfeitures, if we take, it goes into general fund. If you say, okay, that goes to take care of that, well, the general fund, when we adopt a budget, the sheriff's department is one of our general fund departments, and although he's not collecting the bond forfeitures, it's really coming through the other agency. But if we take it out and say, well, this belongs to you because it came with your thing there, well, we just take and shift money back, because we're not going to give them. If we give money, take it away from your general operation, you either reduce what we're doing general operations, or you come up with another source of money.
Didn't we go through this when Sheriff Olivares was here, and the drug forfeiture money, that's totally at the discretion of the sheriff.
That's correct.
The auditor, I remember some fights back in those days. The auditor couldn't even get access to audit the funds, much less have any control over how they were spent.
We do have those now, or the audit does audit those, and there are in our coffers, as far as doing that. They are deposited in the county's treasury. It's not in a separate bank.
But it's total discretion of the
Right.
sheriff.
For the drug forfeitures, yes. And I believe the district attorney also has a forfeiture fund, and it's within his discretion too. But it has to be within the guidelines of the law, though.
So I'm saying the guidelines of the law, if it pertains to an inmate, can they use some of those funds for it?
Not the drug forfeiture, not for the funds. There are funds that inmates, I believe, I'm trying to remember what the title of that particular account is, but there is some money that can be used for the inmates, but it's only statutorily they can only use it for certain things. And I don't remember which fund that is. The inmate fund.
Benefit fund, that comes
Yeah.
from.
But it's very limited what they can use it for. I oversaw, I was telling you about how many litigation cases we have, and I forgot to tell you how many we've gotten rid of with no liability. On 2012, we got rid of 8 with no liability. 6, and 2 is we settled. But none of them is with liability, obviously. Even if we settle, it's no liability. But the cases that we have disposed of, all our cases, we try to dispose of them at the motion level, pretrial motion level, which means that we file motions for dismissal, we file a plea to the jurisdictions, we file a motion for summary judgment, and we are successful. You just saw right now, recently with San Patricio County, we filed, through outside counsel, we filed some motion for summary judgment, and basically the court ruled in our favor, so that case is done, other than appeal. So this is the advantage, but any pleading that we do takes time and a lot of work. But to me, it's worth it. And we try our best to try to dispose as many cases as we can. And I wanted to just let you know about that. No more questions? Now I can talk about my budget. It's real short. I want to thank you. I mean, obviously, you've seen my request. The main focus is going to be a request for salary increases of my lawyers, my attorneys. There's three categories. There's four. I had alleged four categories that I wanted to address. Number 4, which is a shredder, and we already purchased that. So this one, number 4, is not a non-issue now. We took care of it. The postage is pretty much the same, but we still are having to do it ourselves. We still have to use our P card and pay for the postage. All our pleadings have deadlines, and we have to file them timely. That includes the public information request. There's time limits there. Any dispositive motions that we have to file, any notice that we have to file, everything has to be timely. And we've had several occasions in the past where deadlines have been missed because of that, and we don't want to take any chances whatsoever, and that's why we use that. With regard, yes, sir.
When you say deadlines, you don't want to, is that the Postal Service's fault, or is that?
Yes,
Martha's
no,
fault?
downstairs, our mail person.
Well, I think this was also an issue, I think, brought out in the district attorney's report or something. And at some point, could we maybe have a briefing on how our local internal postal operation works? Because, I mean,
I think Elsa handles that right portion of it.
If that's a problem for a lot of the departments, it may be worth looking at and seeing if we can't tweak it a little bit.
But we have a P card, so we use it, and we use it for that purpose because we don't want to miss deadlines. We can't afford it. There's statutory deadlines we have to meet in filing pleadings and filing responses. The PIA has, statutory requirements as well, so we can't afford to miss any deadlines. We have a high volume. Everything requires notice. Everything requires filing it by a certain date. So, anyway, that's pretty much on that. So I want to talk about the salary increase request. 10 years ago, and let me start off this way. I know through the years, the last review of attorney base salary was 10 years ago of all the lawyers. And we thank you. You did change that. You upped their salaries, which was I'm very thankful for that. And since then, of course, you have granted across the board a lot of small amounts of increases, whether it's continuance pay or longevity pay or cost of living pay. And so we're very appreciative of that. And I don't want you to think that I don't look at that. In addition, of course, I give them a little bit of a supplement, but it's not enough. We took a look at four counties in ourselves to compare, and it's all based upon similar populations and similar work as well, because not every county will do everything that we do, but we try to match it as close as possible. So the counties we looked at, and actually it's 3, is Montgomery, Williamson, and Bell. And they were all around the same population and the same type of cases that we handle ourselves. And the salary ranges in Montgomery is $67,285. In Williamson was $56,952. In Wessex County we have $52,416. In Bell County it was $63,468. So in comparison to those, we were still the lowest salary. Now we took the lowest the next, I think we took 67,285. That's my recommendation, and asking for our salaries to be increased for attorney twos. I'm sorry, for attorney three, we took the 67,285, which is the Montgomery County average. And for the attorney twos, we took the next to the us, which is Williamson County, at 56,952. And of course, I try to look at everybody, and we have two chiefs, and I was just asking for a small amount of increase for each of them for $1,500. Like I said, we try to offset as much as we can for our budget. We're very frugal with our money. We hardly ever spend anything. In terms of MCLE, continuing legal education, we try not to send a lot of people out of town. We do a lot in-house. We do videos for various reasons. One, time, and two, we save that money for one important course that we think it's important, and we try to seek classes that are free. So we're very frugal in how we spend our money, and we always stay in budget. I mean, to the T, we're very careful about that. When we are out, when attorneys are out on vacation, we still, our work doesn't stop. We continue doing our work. And I don't think I'm basically talking to the choir, because you all know, each one of you know, that we try to assist you as quickly as possible with any of your projects, and all of you have been very successful in completing your projects, and we are very conscious of that, because we want you to do what you need to do. But there are times that, obviously we're shorthanded, but we've been very, successful, and we have recruited people that want to work for me and want to work in our office and understand the high volume and understand the work involved. One of the things that is very important about me asking for this increase is that we have experience, a lot of experience in our office, not only historically, aside from myself, but also in terms of how long they've been practicing. I mean, all of our lawyers, except for maybe one, that I think he's been practicing about 3 years, or two of them. The rest they've all been practicing a long time. They're all experienced lawyers. They're all trained, cross-trained, and they basically can do everything. Unfortunately, like anything else, like in the litigation side, we handle as much as we can in-house, and then whatever we can't, because of conflicts or otherwise, we have to farm out. But we do our very best to do good by the taxpayers of this community, as well as Commissioners Court, because we understand that you have to stretch your dollar. You only have a certain amount, and we understand that. But I really seriously ask that you consider that, and that is what I'm asking. Are there any questions?
Any questions for the county attorney? Nice report, Laura. We thank you for what you're doing. You might tell the court we saved a little money this week in one of our mediation cases.
Oh, yes. We did. We went to mitigation. We went to, unfortunately, it was very last minute, and we had to find a mediator. We used dispute resolution, so we didn't have to pay, and I was very impressed, actually, and I may consider using them more often. And we settled the case for way low. And that's going to be on our next Commissioners Court agenda. But yes, we try our best to save as much money as we can, whether through pretrial motions or through settlement. And we do the best we can, and we're just very appreciative of everything that you do. We understand what your responsibilities are, and we'll continue working.
We appreciate you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello, Mr. Barrera. Good morning. Good morning.
The reason I'm here this morning is to discuss vote centers. Judge Neil yearly gets a letter from the Secretary of State's office and notifying him that the counties have a deadline if they're wanting to submit an application to have vote centers. He's called me up and we discussed it in general, and he said, I want you to come to the court one of these days and talk to them about it. So we thought during this time period we would just come and bring you what vote centers are and to see what direction you all may want to take, if any at all. So that's why I'm here before you today. A vote center is a little different from the concept that we've traditionally had of a voting precinct polling place, where you have a site at the designated location within a boundary of a voting precinct. A vote center on election day changes that whole form of voting to one that is very similar to early voting, where a person can go vote at any of the vote centers within the county on election day. Several counties have implemented this. It started several years ago with only Lubbock County, who was a test site, and it was a very limited pilot program. And she had to finalize a report of the do's and don'ts, so she's been the county that people look towards for information from her. Through the years, they've changed a couple of things legislatively every time, but counties, it's now changed to where counties no longer have to, there was only a limited number of counties, certain amount of large, certain amount of small. So everybody just submits up who is interested in it. With that said, one of the criterias for even considering a vote center site is that we would have to have been completely computerized on election day, like we are in early voting. It's a very expensive endeavor, and as we know how we had been strained with the finances, I never had brought it up before because I knew that it was just too much. So I'm just letting you all know what it would entail if we were needing it. I'm not being a proponent that we want to have it, but we'll make it happen if that's what the court wants. So on election day, we would have to have computerization on there. So that means we would have to have laptops. A consideration that some counties use is they reduce their polling place locations, their vote center locations, and the law allows that we can only reduce it no more than the 60% of the current precincts we have in the county. That's one consideration, and some counties have had resistance to that because they're feeling, some people in their counties are feeling that it may take away some of the, it may be more difficult for people to get to a different destination than when they were used to in accompanying, and it would reduce turnout and all. Two counties I know of, one attempted to hold public hearings, which is a requirement that we have to do. We have to hold a public hearing for the public to let us know if they're for it or against it. And it didn't work in those scenarios. Travis County, lastly, is one of the last counties that came on board. And Ms. de Beauvoir, in a conference that we hosted here in January, mentioned to us that they had decided that they weren't going to try to reduce polling sites, that she felt that it would be less chaotic and less opposition from either side, that she wanted to just go ahead and convert what they currently have into vote centers to allow everybody to be able to vote currently where they're at, so that way it would minimize any ability for a person to get to their site, and no one would feel that they were being infringed upon with any voting rights. That is very expensive too, so I don't know which way the court would even consider to go. Laptops would be necessary. We would need, of course, the hardware, air cards, airtime. The same token, we would also need to have a lot of hardware, and we created a spreadsheet, and I didn't want to show this to you right now only because I didn't want to scare you all off. But what we have to consider is in the mode of doing this, and I love in early voting, what we do is, the record is tagged immediately to the voter registration database. What we do is we tap into the VR site, and as we search the voter, we're indicating that they have voted, so it tags their record. On election day, the same thing would happen. It would keep voter registration from having to work on the back end after an election, because we would be marking and indicating who had voted at what particular voting site on election day. After the fact, currently, what they do is they get a combo sheet from our manual forms, and they're inputting everything in. We've converted our forms, it's now barcode, so they use barcodes, but it takes them several weeks to finish that. And that's the voting history that people are purchasing throughout this process. So that would have been eliminated for them to do. But with that comes a lot of expense in the sense of the software that we're using, we need licensing for. It's called VoteTech. That's a product that we're using for the voter registration election management. We would need, of course, we'd be paying airtime on that particular day. For the hardware, we'd need the air cards. We would need to have some boosters for making sure that we have Wi-Fi communication with that. We would have to test each side out. So it's a very, very detailed and a lot of administrative work on the back end to make something like that happen. It's exciting, but I just, I'm just wanting to be straightforward with you all because it would be very expensive. I do anticipate, too, that we would probably need a couple more voting machines to get this done if we decide that the county you wanted to reduce the locations into vote center scenarios. Some counties have formed a committee. They've gotten together with both sides of the table and they've tried to determine what best locations to use, and you put a lot of machines out there. You're not really reducing expenses in the terms of the workers because now you're shifting the workers from a precinct scenario into a vote center scenario. If you reduce size, you need more people to help administer these elections. So I know that Ms. DeBouvois said it's still too early for them to be able to determine whether they have a cost savings or not, and because they just got started. Galveston County is another county that just got started too, and they were deemed as an acceptable one. We would start with, once you have the minimal requirements of computerization, you submit to the state that this is what we're wanting to do, and they're going to be on notice that we're going to be doing this. After the election takes place, we send a report up to the Secretary of State letting them know that we held a public hearing for the public, that there was that we were computerized, and give them all the facts to reflect that we didn't have any people that were disenchanted and we didn't have any major problems with it. Then they will deem you as an acceptable location for use in future elections. This last legislative session, they attempted to try to pass legislation that would allow the use of vote centers in a primary scenario, and that did not pass. No, that did not pass. That did not pass, and that's unfortunate because that becomes confusing for the voters, because in a primary scenario, most counties, a lot of them have joint primaries, and Nueces County doesn't, and it's becoming very difficult for both administrators on both sides to have election judges that have been trained to do this. So they are consolidating a lot more precincts together to be able to accomplish this, because our election judges are now saying they've had it, that's enough for them, and really the age of the people are senior citizens. We just lost 2 this last week or so who passed away that had years of experience. So there's other programs that we could implement to assist them. There has been one, and we were hesitant to get this implemented, but we're going to be moving forward with that, and that is a student poll worker program that they allowed us to do, that we could have worked with all the school districts, so that way maybe in the school districts that these voting precincts are in, we could have incorporated students at a young age, at their ages in high school, to be part of the process, and they could work at the polling place. In some counties, that has helped the judges who are a little bit intimidated with computer equipment, and these students assist them with that process. And that could be, something that we could consider as well. So along with all that, though, all that we would need, if we would, have all that equipment, we need people to help manage that. So staffing resources would need to be increased as well on our end, because I can't support that with the current people that I have now. So I just thought I'd bring this forward to you to see whether it's something that we're thinking thinking of doing that maybe slowly through the years. We could have maybe purchased, some laptops or get into a leasing. We considered that too. And I haven't done a lot of homework to find out what it is that, the county may be wanting to look towards. But those are considerations that if we purchase, we could have purchased some through a couple of election cycles. It all did change this cycle in stating that if we do get started, we have to start in a constitutional amendment election, which I wholeheartedly agree. You never want to start any new process during any major general election. You always have to take it slow and start it in a non-general election year. So with that said, that's really all that I do have to bring forward to you. But you have a lot of licensing requirements. You have I would need more space at a warehouse to be able to house anything. Right now, currently, as you all know, we request that room downstairs for almost half the year. We're utilizing our space upstairs here for the ballot board right outside our office, and it works. We bought some fan-fold walls there so that we can use that are mobile for the board to be at, but we really don't have a good home. Otherwise, the warehouse, considering...
Significant amount of space out at Hilltop where you've got stuff stored too, right?
Yes, sir. Everything in that wing, we're utilizing every single available space. That it isn't even... it's very difficult for staff to even work from because we're using it just to house everything. So we're doing the best we can with the resources we have, but that is not the place to be. And we're just getting ready to get started. They will be coming at the end of the month to implement the RFID technology. We're real excited about that. But we were moving our computers over just yesterday to the other room to allow more space, and the wires are so aged. We called an electrician out and said that the wiring is so old that they can't create a good ground from it. So I talked to Edward yesterday, and we're also looking at building some concrete slab where the ramp is. It's not even an appropriate grade on the ramp, so I said, let's just fix it. If this is where we're going to be staying, let's fix it. I'll help with the funding so we can get it done, but it isn't the ideal location for us, and we can't add any more out there. It's at Hilltop.
How many square feet?
It's a pretty good amount. I asked Kevin the other day, it's probably at least 1,500 maybe.
I should have brought you pictures that the staff took. I had first created a PowerPoint, and I go, it's not going to be that detailed that I could just discuss with you, but the pictures say a lot. That first room where you enter from the back where the ramp is, every single available space is taken. The staff has done a marvelous job. We have them on caddies. We also had a company that created some real nice canvas covers for them in the event that we have storm and we have water. It'll help at least reduce the water damage to them, and they get to work from all that, and we're using barcode scanners for all that too. So all equipment is just taken up on that first room. It's filled.
It's nearly one whole wing of the
Yes.
Hilltop Center.
It's that second one in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it. I just am curious about how much.
It's 1,500, 2,000 square feet at least.
Yeah, and how many counties now are using this system?
I think we have about, let me see here. We have 11 counties
11.
that have been deemed successful. Collin County, Eastland, Erath, Floyd, Gaines, Galveston County recently did, Lampasas, Lubbock, Midland, Swisher, and Travis.
Well, I know the legislature sort of took the lid off this last time, so there's not a limit, specific limit of so many large counties and
That's
so many small. It's just if you think you're ready, we'll.
And we could have worked towards it, if, like, even some of the precincts, it has been, a constant discussion when we're approving all of the locations that some of these precincts were established years ago prior to us even being here. So it's a lot of them. In comparison to Lubbock County only has 60 precincts with a population of 278,000. And we have 126 right now, 127 now. We just added the last one. Right now, some locations are no longer even available, and we've had to consolidate them when we're holding an election. And it hasn't been adverse, it hasn't been any controversy for the voters in those areas, so we could have even changed boundaries for that.
How many centers do you think we would need?
Well, it depends on which way you would want to go. If, you want to form a committee and they would agree upon, let's try to find good locations, even at the schools, because, if it's a public building, they have to allow us the use of it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We just have to pay for any costs after 5 o'clock to help, offset salaries if people stay late to close the building or not. But we are limited in even the location where they place us, and it's not really conducive to voting sometimes, because we have to consider any ADA issues, and they want to sometimes put us even in a hallway, and we tell schools, you can't. We have to have a good location, which is puts students out. And I remember your suggestion, Commissioner, on them holding workshops on those days, and it happens in some other counties I'm aware of, so I would have hoped that we could consider that in the future on election day, that maybe they would just have teachers work day and the students aren't there, and we could have a lot more space. Lubbock County formed the committee, and they went everywhere. Says they're even in some locations where they have car lots, and I can't conceive of that because to me it's too intimidating for voters to come up, try to find its location with all those cars around there, and you don't get good parking space because you need dedicated space for voters to come into. So committees have been established to try to find good locations. Hidalgo County just attempted to try to do this, and the elections administrator pulled back because it became too controversial. So they decided not to at this time. But I just thought I'd bring this forward so that way, if we did get started, we could formulate a plan to maybe purchase some of these items through a couple of different budget years, so that way we could.
But I think it sounds good to me. I mean, but I'm sure if you're going to get rid of, we have 127 precincts and we're going to have centers, wouldn't we save some money, but we're not going to need all those judges?
Well, you may need some, because while you don't need to have all the polling places there, you're now going to you're shifting the equipment into maybe, let's say, 60% of the locations. So you're going to need more people there to assist with all the voters that may be arriving at that time. So it's very hard to tell.
Yeah.
I think that what Travis County has is they decided they weren't going to go through all of the politics that can take place. They just implemented it at all the current precinct polling places, and they went with vote centers. I mean, and that's just true. That's a true way of getting the vote out to everybody, and there's no question asked. It's expensive. They created one super voting center that they had a lot more equipment out there. I can anticipate it. We would have done that. Then council would still be a huge location on election day. So you can no longer just put the small amount of machines that you had over there. You'd have to put what we use in early voting, because that's the best south side location. And it's become problematic only in the sense that so many people head there, where it's critical for us to try to find another location further out towards Saratoga Way. I've talked with CCISD, and we think the natatorium is something that we could consider in the future out this way, but we need something further out, and we really don't have any other large public building to assist to help the traffic from there, because this last election, the director of the Council for the Deaf called us immediately asking for assistance because the traffic had gotten too congested there, and we have to hear her and do what we have to do, because otherwise she'll tell us no more. We can't use it any longer. So we had to hire off-duty police officers to help with traffic control for a 2-week period. It was very expensive. You do what you have to do.
Well, we had to do that at Toloso Midway several years ago. Population changes, areas change, growth changes around areas where before you had plenty of parking and there was no traffic issues, and those you have the demographics just change. So you have to look at it and you make adjustments.
I mean, the ideal thing for me, if we didn't reduce, that would be best. That way you don't get into the politics of it, and nobody's complaining, and it's not looking as if anybody is trying to play political games. I mean, that's the ideal scenario for me, in working on this end of the election cycle.
Do you have excuse me, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Commissioner.
I was going to say, you've been very graceful in your tiptoeing around the cost.
Well, the cost, I mean, we did put $1 to it, but I mean, we would need some hardware, we would need the communications information. Rochelle, I mean, she put everything in here because even warehousing space, I would recommend 3 other people for staffing for us to assist us with a technician. We only have 2 now to do what we do, and they're a young group, and that's why I've held back on too many more new implementations, because I had such a young crew of learning that I needed for them to build up some experience themselves too before we moved on, because all we've done since I got here is implement. It's been tireless. It's just all we've done. I got here in '04, and we really had to implement the new HAVA requirements, training, educating, and everything, and then we changed voting systems and getting people on board. So it's exciting, but
Good job.
I don't want to scare you on this, guys. I'll give you all a copy so that way you can just see the listing, and that's the ideal scenario. I think Simon has copies that he can show you all, because she listed everything out that we use. And of course, with everything, we charge out all of our equipment out, everything that we do to the entities when it comes to the voting equipment.
By now, nothing will scare us.
Pardon?
By now, nothing will scare us.
I know. And what we do is we charge everything out, and we do have a fund right now that we had to utilize recently when we had an emergency purchase of a scanner that went out during the election, this last election cycle.
Is there, on the test sites that they've done in Lubbock County, and you mentioned some other, have you seen any significant change up or down in terms of voter participation? Have you lost voters, or have you gained voters, or about the same turnout?
I believe there was a gain. Did Travis County gain, Simon, do you recall? Yes, I think they did. Because, some people get so busy, even on election day. I wish the courthouse were a polling site on election day. So many people come up here, and we can't. We have to direct them to their election day polling place. But, licensing is required for all this because of the hardware, too. So licensing costs. We also have another... when we log into the county's mainframe, to the county's computers, we log in through another product that Mr. Biddle recommended that we all use, and it's what law enforcement uses too. It ensures connectivity. So we go through that first before we hit the voter registration database. We can look online ourselves too, and we have real-time info on the amount of people that are voting. So I look hourly, and I'm always refreshing my screen, which is wonderful with the product we have, and I really am happy with it.
You've got it here that the current Hilltop wing is 4,000 square feet, and that may be correct.
I think Rochelle might have inquired about that, so
Yeah.
you're right. You may be
But
right.
And so you say if you had a new warehouse, it was 10 to 15,000 square feet, so that would encompass what you have at Hilltop and plus all the other stuff that you have.
I think we could do everything that we're needing there. Right now, we don't even have a good home for training of the election workers that we're needing. We place them out at Hilltop. We try to use the middle of that back room because we have all filled with all the supplies. We don't have a good location for them. Other counties have just had a warehouse where they do everything from there. They even have voting over there. I don't know that I recommend
How many
that.
people do you normally have in your training class?
The training class, we have about 30 people, but we're limited only because we don't have the space.
30 people?
So we'll train for about a week and a half to try to get everybody through there. Because we'll have judges and the alternates that come in. Sometimes clerks want to come in. They're more than welcome to. They can even do online training and then show us their certificate. And those are different options as well. Because we have training online.
Commissioner, ask a question. So what's the total number? You said 30 because you have space. What would be the number if you had space? How many train?
We could get as many as that would fit.
100.
Yeah. Well, we used to, like on Saturday mornings, they come up here to the courthouse. We have to bring everything into the courthouse so that they can meet here at the central jury room. So we're always transferring equipment in and out.
So that's the
We
key
use
is
that
to
room
get
117.
Equipment, wherever the equipment is, that's where you want to have the training.
That's it. We use 117 over there, downstairs, for the whole year, and it's displacing other people. The training, if it were over there, it'd be ideal. Some people work from their own warehouse facility to even do their ballot by mail, and our ballot by mail is increasing considerably. We have a lot of online, not online voting, but what we do have is for the military for what we do send out to them, like in a general election, I think we're probably sending out about 2,000 to 3,000 military, and 60% of that now has become electronic in nature. We send out via email. And they have to print everything out over there where they're at, and then they vote it, and then they mail it back in. But that's a lot of work administratively behind the scenes, and all our workers are upstairs doing that, and you get interrupted, and it's constant. So we don't have a good home.
How many early voting sites do we have?
Now, I think when people join us, because we probably have about we can go anywhere between 24 to 28. I think we do have 35 laptops, because one election cycle everybody was joining us. We'll use 2 at council, we use 2 in Robstown, and we use 2 here at the courthouse laptops. So we have about 24 usually that we use when the entities join us.
Well, first, I want to thank you. Every time I go to an urban counties meeting, the discussions eventually end up about doing something like this, because Lubbock started it now. A number of larger counties are doing it, and smaller counties are doing it. And quite frankly, I think there's going to come a time when the legislature is going to say, we're going to do this. Yeah. And I hate for us to be always at the end of the thing in Nueces County. And I really think there's a lot of validity to trying to maybe not have 127 precincts, but maybe have 100, or, because we have voting precincts you can't even find when
That's
you go
right.
out there, number one. And when you get there, there's not 3 or 4 people that vote, and there are more judges than voters that day.
For the last couple of elections, we have reduced it to by 6, only because that we've had to combine them, because one is no longer usable, and it hasn't been problematic for all of the voters in those areas. So
One in my precinct I've never found. We've been looking for it for 2 years.
Well, and those are the kinds of things we could put a committee together from both parties.
That's correct.
And both chairs, and say, look, here's 30 precincts out here, guys, that you all share or don't share, and our total vote from all those is 200 or something. And those are the kinds of things I think we can benefit from, whether we do this or not.
And in changing polling places, according to the code that's in Chapter 42, you can review it during March or April of an odd-numbered year, and you would vote on it, but it can't take effect between a primary and a general. So I think it'd probably start the following year. So you have to kind of really work in advance.
So this is an odd-numbered year, and we've missed March and April. So if we wanted to start meeting with the party chairs and all to move toward, I hate to use consolidated, but looking at where we have the voters and where we can best serve them, when would we start?
I'll check with the Secretary of State's office. I know that you have some exceptions. I checked on that this morning. I knew of sometimes during the middle of an election and you have to change polling places, you have exceptions. You can only do it at this time except this, and that's when you don't have a suitable polling place or it exceeds 5,000. We don't have any polling places that exceed. That's our cap for our population size, 5,000 registered voters, and we don't have that. We did some changes years ago to the south side for growth, and we did it by committee.
Well, what really prompted me this time, Deanna, was we had large south side precincts that, I won't say had fights, but we had a lot of disturbance in some of those large precincts, and the voting, as you know, went on hours after the,
Yes, sir.
the polling place. And if they could have gone anywhere and voted, they would have voted and gone home.
That's right. They could have, one of them that, stayed very late and we could never reach them to find out what was taking place, was there for hours and they could have gone other places. They were in the wrong one. On election day, when, the south side, they'll go. We've had problems at one of the fire stations, I believe, out there, where people are just getting on the grass, getting everywhere, trying to find parking. So all of those things are problematic. We use public buildings, but they're not the best suitable locations sometimes either. So you do what you can do.
Well, if it's all right with the court, I'm not ready to put out a press release that says we're going to do this, but I wish we could systematically approach this so as we get closer to the 2014 election, or whatever the one is that makes sense, then we can begin to test some of this and bring everybody under the tent and say, look, let's work on this.
We could have considered also, too, at this time, we could have purchased a third of the laptops, place them in the higher in the precincts that have a higher registration, so that way they can start getting accustomed to it, and we could introduce it slowly to them. Some counties, small counties, they use what they call these little poll books, and not something that I favor, but it's laptop too. It can also be very intimidating to somebody who doesn't have computer experience, so it's not very. It's difficult, but I will tell you that the election judges fared very well when we implemented these others. We lost a third of the election judges we had when we brought in new technology. So we started to have a poll worker crisis, and we really have not brought the new electronic voting equipment. Yes, sir. Because it became too much.
Well,
for
you
them.
have on here poll book software of 100,000, 104,000.
That's a licensing.
Yeah.
And the company calls it poll book.
Yeah.
These are laptops that we use for the product, and it's tapping in. So in the end, it would reduce work on the voter registration side too. That's one plus for them.
Is it possible to start thinking about this?
We could have considered, purchasing a couple of computers in the larger precincts. I can't, we have 35 now. We use them all in early voting, and we cannot turn them around from when they turn them into us on a Friday night and then disseminate them the next morning. It's no way, because we have too much going on, and you have to prepare them with particular files that are exported. Everything is now electronic. We export out data from the voter registration database into and get these files ready for them. And even when we program, voter registration information is critical. That comes up and imports up to our ballot preparation and our programming. So it's become very technical in nature.
And I think we need to really educate the schools about early enough so they can start thinking about it too.
Yes.
We might need.
Well, it would be all the entities too to let them know that this is something we're considering, because if they were to join us, this is what we would have to move towards.
It allows you not to have to eat the elephant all in one bite.
That's right.
You
That's
start
right.
slowly
Uh-huh.
and fix the fringe deals. There are voting locations out in my precinct that just don't make sense. I mean, they're in somebody's garage, and there's
That's
four
it.
people show
That's
up
right.
there, and so you have to devote all this time and effort and staff, where you could consolidate that over to another place that makes more sense.
And I'll tell you, Commissioner, how a lot of
It's
them.
not going to put anybody, I don't think,
Right.
at any harm's way or
The code says that you don't want them to travel more than 25 miles, but the code was written so long ago that people, are probably travel further to get to council or get to the courthouse than their precinct location.
25 miles is nothing.
But I forgot my train of thought. I was going to
Two
mention.
things you might want
Holly.
to consider when you look at your laptop situation is something we're doing is looking at the new notebooks with the newest, latest, greatest version of Windows
Okay.
8. They work quite well.
Do they? Great.
We're looking at replacing a lot of laptops. They're more portable. They're easier to use. And the other thing is, in many locations throughout the city, Deanna, you'll have access to the city's Wi-Fi, and it's quite good. And you would not need an air card in that particular
For your
situation.
time, yeah. We
And
connect
there
there.
is a possibility we could work with the city to install additional routers in these particular
areas.
locations where you wouldn't need an air card.
Okay.
It's
The
exactly what we did at the fairgrounds. We bought the routers, the city installed them, and now everything at the fairgrounds is on Wi-Fi.
Our contract is with Sprint, and they don't charge us for the actual hardware purchase. They're just charging us for the airtime, which is pretty good because we used to pay $75 for each one, and we'd pay a yearly maintenance fee. So that's doable. And then we suspend them when we're not using them, because then we don't want to have to pay for them the whole year. So
But your throughput is 10 times
Yeah.
better, Deanna. I mean, air card is not ever going to be as good as a Wi-Fi connection in most instances.
But the Wi-Fi is forever, right? I mean, you can't go off and on.
That's correct.
Is there going to be any issues with security if you use Wi-Fi?
no, sir, because this isn't the actual voting itself. It is just the tagging of the record of the voter that they have voted.
All the
you- it's-
transmissions are encrypted.
Well, it sounds like we're generally in agreement that this is something we need to take a slow step to the next level, and it might very well be if you could have somebody, and I know you don't have anything to do over there, but if you had somebody over there that you could sort of make the guru, and maybe Commissioner Pusley and Steve and a couple others could spend some time trying to look at this list and say, well, if we did this, it would be better, and then we can start bringing in the party chairs and say, here's what we're thinking about,
Right.
guys.
I didn't even approach them because I had no idea, what
Yeah,
direction
no,
y'all may
and
want to
it
go. It's
wasn't
too
time
preliminary.
to.
Right.
But if they talk to anybody in these other counties, they're going to say, this is where we're headed in Texas, and particularly in urban counties. We're going to have to figure out how to do a better job, cleaner job, and more efficient, effective job of getting people to vote. And you can't, as you said, you can't get enough judges and everybody else to sit around somewhere all day long and do nothing when a block and a half away or 2 blocks away, they've got a line clear down the street that that doesn't make any sense anymore.
People come to the courthouse because they're here on jury duty, so, they
That's
take
right.
advantage of that
That's right.
opportunity.
I've never thought until this last election, we don't have any problems early voting other than, where they get out in the street and start fighting with each other, but we just go vote. No, seriously, we just go vote somewhere and everybody votes. The system thought process today is there. Where can I go vote? Oh, there's a place. Let me go over there and vote. And boy, that would seem like to me we'd get a whole lot more people to think about
I think so,
voting
too.
if it's easier. We can't make it much easier, but that might be easier.
I do just want to mention, if you all know of a facility on the south side that you think could have been utilized for voting, off of Saratoga, out there somewhere on the south side, there's really a need for one out there to alleviate some of the traffic out of Council for the Deaf.
You said the natatorium is there, so.
The natatorium is over here to the right side near Castoris. At least that's something, but I think we've discussed it with Dr. Hernandez with CCISD for its usage.
We'll start looking.
The new high school, yes, we haven't talked about that.
Yeah, you got the high
the
schools,
new
you've
high
got,
school.
you've got a fire station on Saratoga.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
Well, thank you, Deanna.
Yes, sir.
And so let's don't lose at least the initiative of where we go from here, please. And as we all talk to people who run these various party elections, we need to be talking to them. Say, hey, let's get together and talk about this. We're not trying to make it harder. We're trying to make it easier and quicker.
A warehouse would be our ideal dream right now.
That's why early voting is so important and so easy, because they go anywhere they want.
Thank
But-
you. Yeah, Joe.
Well, as you're planning on the long term of this, getting back to what the judge was saying, I think you ought to initiate as soon as you can. It's just the common sense is to identify out of the 120 how many really are obsolete and non-functional and get them down to 100 or 102 or 95. But whether we go, how quickly we move to this is something that I think. Just common sense says we ought to do it.
I think what's happened in the
Lodges
past,
and
I'm
people's
sorry.
back porches are.
Yes, sir.
That's
What has transpired through the years is as redistricting has taken place every cycle, they've just readjusted lines without its review, because then it becomes very political and nobody is really wanting to take it on to look at that. And so when you look at some of these precincts, some of them are shaped so oddly, and it's as a result of redistricting lines that had been written, had been created years ago. You'll have some real narrow areas on the south side of town, a real narrow area, I think at 113. It's just oddly shaped, and a lot of that is a result of those redistricting.
Well, I know in primaries, I don't know about on the Democrat side, but the Republicans, on several times in
consolidate.
primaries, they combine precincts to vote in
'Cause
one location.
They
So,
don't have a lot of election workers, too.
It's not something people can't adjust to.
Yes.
So, the fewer precincts, the better off you're going to be.
Ideally for us, it would help us if they would
Voting locations.
join
on
in the
precincts.
primaries as well, but they don't, and we respect that. So we're holding 2 primaries with sending out equipment to 2 sets of equipment to some of the schools in different rooms and all. So it makes it for a longer evening for us. Some counties will join together in primaries.
On your the city elections now are in November, which also is going to add to your problem.
No, that hasn't been problematic. They've been holding elections with us for a long
Oh,
time
but
in November, like
The
amendments.
November
Yes.
city election.
Yes. That isn't problematic. They've been holding different bond elections and for a long time with us, so having them join us in this. The only complexity on us, on our side, is the programming of the equipment, because it's very very intricate in programming voting equipment for the commonality of about everybody's boundaries. So when years ago, when it was just Nueces County, in the ballot styles, we would have maybe 25 ballot styles. You run your sorts of the commonality of where people are. Now with all the jurisdictions on board, we have 127 precincts. The last election, we ended up with 89 unique ballot styles. That is very complex on our end. That's the hardest part of our job.
Diana, does this mean if we go to this, the city would also have some responsibility for the expense?
Well, yes, sir. What they do is currently anything that we are purchasing,
Well, it's CISD, right?
everybody is paying their fair share of everything.
That's after the fact.
That's after the fact.
After the fact.
Right.
we-
After the
we
fact.
put up the cap.
Okay, I
but
just want to make sure that.
That's correct. We do that. Of course, there's going to be a time that if we keep increasing, the statute only allows a cap that we can only charge up to a certain amount. After that, then we'll have to figure out some other method. But they do help us, and that is those monies that come in from that are placed in a special account because it's grant funded money, so it has to be placed separately, and it's a sinking fund that you all will see, our county clerk sinking fund, and that's the money that comes in from the leasing of the equipment for the jurisdictions. We had to use some funds, an emergency purchase this last election cycle, a scanner, so that's a place to
Well, thank you.
utilize. Okay,
Is that enough to
that's
sort
it.
of help you get started?
That's fine. Yes, sir. We could just
Okay.
review that, and if
Okay.
you all think that maybe we could have increased some hardware for some locations, 10 or
Well, that's
15
why,
or so.
that's why I thought
for-
it would be good if
But
some of the
you,
gurus could talk about it, and we might be able to spend our money wisely instead of just buying something that's going to be obsolete next year or 2 years.
and with the company product that we have, I think it's laptop that they use with Votech. But I'll have to double check that, because we had even thought using maybe some iPads and all. But then
Well, the
it doesn't allow us for, it's
iPads are
closed.
going to present a challenge for you because they're not going to be
Yes,
compatible
that's
with
right.
the other software you're going to utilize.
That's
You'd be
right.
much better off with a Microsoft.
And if it breaks, well, then everything is gone
Yeah.
on that one. So we read an article on that. I said, nope, that's not an option. So
No.
we try to investigate everything. Well, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, good,
Thank
thank you. Commissioners, I think that's a good discussion and something which needs to be moving along. Thank you very much. Well, Doctor, good morning. Thank you, Doctor.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was going to go ahead and look at this numbers with you. I know you have the number of bodies that have come to the Nueces County Medical Examiner Office. In 2010, 599. And this is Nueces County and surrounding counties. At 2011, 670. And then 2012, 680. That number is a number that's increasing. It's a significant number, and it's relative to other offices. It's comparable to what you see at El Paso and Lubbock, Galveston.
Where are we at? I'm lost.
I was looking at this one
He's not.
On the very last page of your budget.
in the packet. Yeah.
Okay, all right, I got it.
The main thing is that the number is the trend is up. The actual number is a significant number, and for comparison purposes, in 2003 when I first started, the number was about 400, the 400 range, and now here we are at 2012, and the number is almost approaching climbing up to double what it was back in 2003. So that's a significant change that's been going on. The packet that I just handed you, that shows the breakdown for the cases that are homicides, and these are homicides for the calendar year, and these are cases where someone's been shot, beaten, or stabbed. This does not include, for instance, drunk driver that runs off the road or crashes and kills somebody. Those the courts handle as vehicular homicides, but for our records we classify them as accidents, motor vehicle accidents. But that doesn't mean, they can't go to court and handle it as a criminal act, and they do. But those numbers, 2010 was 30, 2011 was 32, 2012 was 47. Those are significant numbers, and the trend's significant also. As comparison, or you can compare it to what I did when I was in Miami. I was in Miami as a medical examiner from 94 to 2002. I handled probably about 20 to 25 homicide cases a year there. Here we had 47. 40 of them were handled by me. 7 were handled by the doctor that helps part-time. The next page that I have there, and I only gave you that one page, number 26, that's actually out of the inspection packet. And I didn't give you the whole packet. It's got over 300 items on it. That's the packet that we're going to be using when we go through inspection. And I'm completing this packet by January 2014. That's the expiration date, and like I said, it's got over 300 items we're going to be inspected on, and so I need to complete this before January 2014, because the next packet will be out and it'll have updated requirements. But this is the packet that's going out, and the page that comes from that packet I copied for you. It's page number 26, and it talks about the number of autopsies that the physician, that the medical staff can do. It's what they consider their cutoff. For J, it says, is the medical staff sufficient size that no autopsy physician is required to perform more than 250 autopsies a year? I've been doing more than 250, but that's not a major deficiency. That's a minor deficiency. That's what they call a phase 1 deficiency. Right above it, where it has that highlighted yellow area, that's the number that is an important number here. It says, is the medical staff of sufficient size that no autopsy physician is required to perform more than 325 autopsies a year? You look at the yellow highlighted area, we've surpassed that number for 2012. And that's a phase 2 deficiency. Now, when the inspector comes, he's going to be looking at these numbers. He's coming in 2014, and he's going to look at these numbers. And if we do nothing, we're going to have a failure on the inspection because of that item. What we need to do, what I recommend, is that we take action to correct that. And all you have to do is show that you're doing work to correct that deficiency. It doesn't mean you actually have completed the process of correcting for it, but you have to show that you're doing the work to correct for it. That's going to involve us at least advertising for a deputy medical examiner and putting out a advertisement for it and trying to recruit for that position. I do not expect that you'll get it filled with, at least, if you're lucky, within 6 months, if you're lucky. If you're not lucky, you're looking at years. There's such a tremendous shortage for people that are board certified forensic pathologists to do the work. You have thousands of surgeons in the United States, but you have probably 400 MDs that are certified forensic pathologists in the entire country. You're going to be competing with El Paso. They're trying to find a medical examiner. They've been looking for 3 years. You're going to be competing with Fort Worth. you're going to be competing with Galveston, who's going to be looking for doctors there. And that's just inside Texas. What you have going in your favor, though, besides Corpus being a nice place to live, is that this office is an accredited medical examiner office. It's been an accredited medical examiner office since back in 2004. And most doctors that are in the field, that are qualified to do the work, they're going to be more likely to go to an office that's an accredited medical examiner office compared to one that's not. The other factor that's going to be going in your favor is thanks to El Paso. They were having such a difficult time that the politicians in Austin, to help them, passed a new bill, and then it got signed by Governor Perry, where you do not have to have a complete, full Texas medical license to be doing the work as a medical examiner. You have to have what's called a temporary license from the state of Texas. And you're eligible for it if you have an active license in another state within the United States and you're applying for a Texas medical license. So that is another factor going in your favor. But it's not a process that I expect it's going to be completed for a while. And at the very least, I think we need to work toward advertising for that position. I've talked to Public Works also about renovation at the office, and in the packet that I gave you, there's a floor plan there that they've done to show that the office space that I work at, they're going to take a third of that space and create another office there. There's room for that to be done there, and they've included the diagram for it, and also the estimated cost. It's $12,000. That's going to be another item that we can show when the inspector comes. That look, we're trying to correct for this area that we need to correct on the inspection. We haven't started doing autopsies on Saturdays yet. We don't have. We just have 2 part-timers that are able to come in on Saturdays, but they're part-timers, seasonal help. So in the budget packet, I've put in paperwork in there to have them upgraded to full-time so that we can start rotating them through Saturdays and start getting autopsies done on Saturdays. Sometimes I come in on Mondays because we haven't done them on Saturdays and Sundays. Sometimes Mondays are very busy. Sometimes it's not. It's just unpredictable. The workload is a significant workload. It's the trend is significant, and compared to other offices, it's in relative terms, it's significant. In the packet, I also included when we received accreditation. That was in 2004 to 2009, and then we currently have it now from 2010 to 2015. But the inspector will be coming probably in the early part of 2014. And we also need to maintain the budget for the part-time position that's helping us. I'm still trying to recruit additional part-time help in the meantime, because we do have one part-time physician, and he comes when he can. He's employed in another ME office, but he makes it out here when he can. He's not here every week. He's not here every month. It's just the scattered days when he can make it.
Is that a licensed MD, doctor?
Yes, he's a board-certified forensic pathologist. He's retired, but he's been working up in Galveston. Then his daughter started going to Rice University, so he decided he needed some additional funding.
I bet. A lot.
And so he's done 72 autopsies for 2012. I did 349, and that was a 2012. That's so the workload is there that we need to start looking at recruiting for that position. And I think we talked about it briefly last year, and at that time I said let's try and see if we can find more part-time help, but it's not something that it's going to be accomplished with just part-time help.
Doctor, how many of the 49 autopsies that you performed last year were from outside Nueces County?
Most of them, I would say, were from Nueces County. If you look at the homicides here,
Yeah.
most of them are Nueces County. Most of the autopsies I did are Nueces County. They're not out of counties. They're most of them Nueces County. And I know we talked in the past of maybe discontinuing the work for surrounding counties. And I don't think that's the best idea, because for number one, that's going to decrease some of the workload, but that's only going to be a temporary solution. Also, when you get cases from surrounding counties, that brings in revenue that you're going to lose. Also, the surrounding counties, they may end up having to take cases south of us all the way up to Houston. But there's no other accredited medical examiner office south of Nueces County. And so that's going to put them in a tremendous bind. Also, all the records are there already for at Nueces County for those previous cases. In addition to that, the Nueces County cases, you can't bill for those. Most of them happen in the city of Corpus, and you can't bill Corpus for doing the autopsies.
No, I understand.
Those cases.
But those are in the county.
Those are in the county. But I'm wondering. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You know,
Go ahead. No.
you know, and I'm just, what the judge was just going to go out, do you have the actual number? I mean, like, the numbers actually in Nueces County cases, what's the actual number?
The actual number in Nueces County, you could probably subtract maybe 100 from where it says the bodies. Subtracts 100 from 680. For instance, 580 will be the Nueces County bodies. The JPs in the surrounding counties, they send cases to Nueces County, and then we end up billing them for that work. But also, they're very selective about who they send to Nueces County. In Nueces County, we get them because they've been found at home and they have no doctor.
You're talking about JP's outside Nueces County?
That's right, JP's outside Nueces
Let
County.
me ask just one more question. If you take away 100, it leaves you 220, and you say we might get gig because we have too many, but is it Nueces County only?
I was referring to this page.
Yeah, but I know, I mean, I see that page. But I'm saying, if we said you can only do 325, is that Nueces County? Or is that total outside Nueces County and Nueces County?
Total that the office can
So
do.
maybe when you had 320, you got some part-time help here that part-time help can pick up about 25 cases maybe, and you won't be over. I'm just saying, you know, is there a point where you say, well, you know what, I'm already rich 320, I got 5 to go, maybe I'll start using my part-time help. And I don't know how much part-time help you have, but I mean, Saturday's a good day for part-time help to come in, you know, and I think you got money there for part-time help or temporary salaries, which is 30,000, and you're asking for 20,000, 50,000. So
that 325 is the cutoff.
Right.
That's where you fail.
It'd be 320 really.
But the goal is 350 is 250,
well,
and we've been over that.
by law, by statute, it's 325. But
325 for phase 2.
well, your
250 for
your
phase
salary
1.
would probably cover the 325 anyway, right?
325 is a number that's the cutoff.
Right.
But that's where you automatically fail.
Well, I would cut off at 320 just to be safe, and let the part-time help take the other 20.
The problem is if I cut off at 320, you may have bodies that are there for an undetermined period of time before a part-timer can come.
Let me,
And also, then you're going to have families calling you up because they want to have those funerals.
No, I know.
Well, I'm just trying to find out where we can work here. I mean, because if we know we're going to get, gig for it, whatever, then we need to probably start looking at numbers at a certain point, and getting the part-time people ready to come into work. Make some arrangements that, hey, the next 3 Saturdays we need you here.
I've been looking for part-timers for at
I
least.
thought you had 2 part-timers.
The office has 2 physicians that do autopsies. It's Dr. Fernandez, myself, full-time, and 1 part-timer who's in Galveston, who lives up in the Houston area.
and did 70 this last year.
It is 72.
You did 72?
Yeah, no, see, when you're talking about these numbers, right now, when the doctor did 345, the part-time did 72,
I did 349,
340.
and he did 72 on top of the 349.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying the total number of autopsies is yeah.
So the part-timer is already doing 72, and I did 349. But I think the flexibility you have, Commissioner, is the fees that you charge surrounding counties. We need to adjust those, and we do adjust them every so often, and it's going to be time to adjust those again.
Let me,
Would that money be enough to hire a contract person to know we can use them here on Saturdays?
You'll have to talk to Steve to see the total, but it'll be a big part of it.
again, we've been for a long time, I'm just checking right now, last year, the current year, we've collected $240,000 in autopsy fees net after Dr.
How much?
Fernandez. 240. We've budgeted 320, and last year, I think the estimated was 320. Around 300, 320 is what we're getting per year for out of county autopsy fees. What I'm saying is we're doing that already, and that money is a combination of used for paying for the doctor to come and used for the temporary. She's got a lot of temporary help in there, so we're spending that money already. So we can't say, well, we got $320,000 come from outside company. Want to use that to hire another doctor? That's part of the scenario already in his operation over there. Now, fees going up. I think we did a fee increase last year, Doctor.
I think it's been a couple of years.
I thought you brought it, but anyway, we've done that.
There were some significant rumblings from one of the counties or a couple of counties about our fee increase.
In fact, Aransas County they cut you off and then they started again. But anyway,
About 45 minutes.
Yeah.
you can fee increase in fees will bring in some extra revenue. That there's no doubt about it.
So what is it, 30,000 and 20,000? I mean, what is that going to? Is that for the doctor also? That part-time doctor or whatever he is? I mean, I guess part-time.
Well, if you
got 30,000.
Commissioner, maybe I can go. We can start. I mean, is currently, other personnel expenses. Some of these extra expenses are for just plain old temporary who come in and help them staff. Is that correct, Doctor?
There's been one doctor who's been helping.
But not just a doctor, but other staff.
Oh yes, there are two temporaries, and they're not physician assistants. They're not forensic nurses. Other offices hire physician assistants or forensic nurses. We hire people who graduated with criminal justice training. They bring them in as interns, and then they're hired on to help with the autopsy work. They're the ones that have been as part-time or seasonal, and they've been helping with the autopsy.
So they're not necessarily physician assistants. They're just
they haven't gone through the physician assistant school. They haven't gone through forensic nursing school.
Technology school or something.
They're graduates from criminal justice or anthropology type school.
Okay.
Other offices hire forensic nurses. We do not have a single forensic nurse. Other offices hire physician assistants. We don't have a single physician assistants. But we are in compliance with all the 300 items in this checklist except for the number of autopsies that the doctor is doing. And that's a phase 2. And the goal is really 250, not 325. But we've been over the 250 mark. And that's been okay because that's not a major deficiency. That's a minor deficiency. You're allowed.
Whose goal is that? Yours?
A handful.
AIDS or?
That's the National Association of Medical Examiners. That's the agency that accredits medical examiner offices. And I recommend we really pursue to maintain it because this is an issue that comes up in court. You let this go, defense attorneys will read this with their eyes closed. They'll say, is that a reason that my client who's in jail, I can use to appeal to get them out? The ME office failed inspection. They don't have accreditation. It comes up in court. When you have desperate attorneys, they're going to look for desperate measures. So I recommend we do what we can to maintain this accreditation. And now, going back to hiring a physician, I don't expect you're going to get one within 6 months, and it may be years. So it's not that you're going to have to budget for it starting January 1st for that physician. It's start recruitment January, and maybe within 6 months, if you're lucky, you'll have someone at 6 months. But I don't have my hopes up. But the people who come by to inspect you, they're not going to fault you if you don't have someone there. You just need to show that you're working to correct the deficiency. They're not, because they know there's a national shortage.
The number of autopsies that you report, the requirement for your testimony, I think varies from locale to locale, depending on how many number of gunshot wounds that they got, how many times they were stabbed. So is there something that's factored into what kind of autopsy you do and from what area those bodies come from? And could that be factored into the scale that we charge here?
We have a tier system. I mean, a tier level on what we charge for surrounding counties, and we give the JPs from the surrounding county an option on the request form. They can either send the body in for an external examination with drug testing, or just a partial autopsy or a complete autopsy. We give them that option. Other medical examiner offices don't give them that option. They just say, you bring the body here, we're going to do a complete autopsy. They don't have that option, but we have. And if you want to look at changing that, we could change that. But as far as in-house cases from Nueces County, for instance, if somebody has committed suicide, they've shot themselves in the head, there's a bullet still in the head, we'll do a partial autopsy, remove that bullet, so if somebody wants to compare it with that gun, they have that information available. We won't autopsy the rest of the body. So we're focused on what we do with our autopsies, but I mean, if we have cases too that come to our office where someone has a ton of medical problems, medications, and the death is an unexpected. It's not an unexpected death, but yet the family wants an autopsy. We'll do an external examination, and if the law enforcement doesn't report anything criminal to us, we probably won't do an autopsy because our numbers are already a high number.
Do the families have to pay for those autopsies if they're requested and not required?
If it's not a criminal act involved, then we probably would not do an autopsy. And if the family wanted to do an autopsy for medical reasons, they could get one done at their choice and sign an authorization and get a private one done. They have that option. There's nothing in the law that says they can't do that.
Well, I realize that, but it wouldn't require your department to do the autopsy.
No, the Attorney General, there was an Attorney General opinion a while back, and it said if it's a criminal act, we do an investigation. And the examination, the degree of examination, is always at the doctor's discretion, the medical examiner's discretion. But each case is handled on a case-by-case basis.
Dr. Those 325, how many were full autopsies? How many of those were actually complete autopsies? I mean,
the 349.
yeah, right.
There's several of them that were full, and several of them that were partial. I don't have those numbers, but like I was talking earlier, we're focused on doing what we need to do to get the information we need. And if it's a matter of getting a bullet out or looking to see what type of head trauma the person has, we might focus on that part of the body, and it's a partial autopsy. But when they come from surrounding counties, they're whatever the JP has requested on his authorization. And there's a payment for that, and it's tiered. So if it's an external, it's one fee. If it's a partial, it's one fee. If it's a complete, it's a different fee. And we don't charge differently whether it's a homicide or not a homicide. We charge differently whether it's a natural, whether an unnatural. So there is differences in fees. And then if you do additional tests, like x-rays, there's additional fees for that. The lab test, there's a fee for that, plus a handling fee for that. If they use a forensic, another expert consultation. There's other fees for that, so that we charge the county, Starting County, a fee plus a handling fee for it.
Very good. Well, Ray, thank you. You all have any other questions for Dr. Fernandez? We'll put you on the stack and see how that comes out.
I don't know if you want a copy of this packet. If you want a copy of it, I guess Steve will contact me.
Yeah.
But it's over 300 items.
Okay.
Thank you all. Have a good weekend.
All right, thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is this the only one you
I
have?
can get another one. No, you take it?
Okay, I'll get it to him.
Okay.
Okay, Steve, I think that's the last one today. And when is our next meeting?
Well, the next budget workshop won't be until after we get our tax rolls on the 25th of July.
Okay,
So it'll be the following that week.
okay. Very good. If you all have any other questions, now's the time. If not, we're going to adjourn and have a weekend. Thank you.
That's